1733. Hey friends, thanks for clicking on this video and joining in on another DIY black powder test. This time it's Mesquite, as the title is telling you. At this point in time, I don't know if I'm going to do Mesquite as a single source charcoal or blend it with another source of charcoal. And before I get into that, I just want to address a couple of comments. I was sitting down going through my analytics and looking at some comments that were left on videos that I did like 2 years ago plus. And to be honest with you, unless you're commenting on a current video, I don't spend any time looking at old stuff unless I just happen to be going through my analytics and looking at my analytics. And when I was doing that, something caught my attention. It's like, wow, this is interesting. Out of all the videos that I've done regarding homemade black powder, the ones that have the most amount of thumbs down, because you can look at your analytics and say, oh, 98.3 like this, 99.1 like this, 96.5 like this. That's an indication of the thumbs down. And I found it interesting because some time back I was getting flooded with a lot of comments from people saying single source charcoal makes the best and most powerful gunpowder. And all the ones with the thumbs down came from the videos I did blending charcoals. Go figure, right? So again, there's that cognitive dissonance, because once you believe in orthodox view, in orthodox opinion, that single source gunpowder, charcoal makes the best gunpowder, when someone like myself comes along and disproves that, there's that cognitive dissonance. It happens all the time, and it happens across the board, whether it's in religion, politics, anything. When that cognitive dissonance kicks in, you can almost see people going, you can just see it. Okay? Now, looking at the comments that came up when I was going through my analytics, there was one that came regarding a video I had done sometime, and a comment that I made about grinding my gunpowder with this coffee grinder and it being made of cast iron, and cast iron does not throw sparks. Somebody in the comment section real recently said, yes it does. That's why I use ceramic. Okay, fine. If that's your orthodox view, you do you, and I'll do me. Because I've been a certified welder for the vast majority of my working life, I'm required to know the compositions of metal. The difference between steel, wrought iron, cast iron, ductile iron, things like that. Okay? But once again, you do you, I'll do me. I know for a fact cast iron does not throw a spark. And I'm going to go out and demonstrate that here in just a little bit. But with that being said, you have to understand that if cast iron threw sparks to ignite black powder, then why aren't your frizzing on your flintlocks not made of cast iron? They're all made of steel. See? Back then, they knew cast iron, wrought iron, doesn't throw a spark. That's why you have to incorporate carbon into the steel, into the wrought iron, to make it a steel. Now back then, it was very piss poorly done. Granted, today, that has been refined through science, okay? Just like blending charcoal sources through science, it has been refined, And just to reiterate a point, Swiss uses a single source charcoal in their gunpowder, buckthorn alder. But as an additive, they use a heavy graphite glazing. So you're not shooting pure, unadulterated black powder. You're shooting something that has an additive to it. Okay? So despite what anybody says, and as far as I'm concerned, Swiss blends their gunpowder with graphite in the form of a glazing. Okay? But what you really need to create a spark, and is readily seen with your flintlocks, is you have to have something coming down very sharp, very hard, and very fast. Okay? Because what's happening is you are shaving off minute pieces of the steel and you're superheating it to cause that spark. Okay? And if your frizzen face is dirty and you don't cause a spark, what's really happening is it's actually slowing down and it's gliding across the face of the frizzen instead of gouging it and causing those sparks, because you are shaving minute pieces of steel. Bear that in mind, because I do not turn this mechanism fast enough to create what some people will say is a spark. It just doesn't happen. But once again, you're making an explosive. You take every precaution that you deem necessary to ensure your safety. If that means going out and investing in a coffee grinder that has ceramic gears down on the inside. But now I gotta ask, if you're so worried about sparks that you've gone to a ceramic grinder, then what about all the metal and the cast iron that's made around this whole thing? You're never gonna turn this even fast enough to create a spark. It's never gonna happen. Unless you're Superman, of course, and you're doing something completely ignorant. It just doesn't happen. But again, you do you, and I'll do me. If I say something that you don't like, then don't do it. Because I don't sit here and tell my audience how to make absolutely the best gunpowder, and then 6 months later come out with another clickbait title. Well, guess what? I can make even better gunpowder now. And then get all those views. That's not who I am. If you don't like it, you have a choice. Don't watch it, or leave a negative comment, and sometimes I'll find it and I'll do a video, such as the guy that left a comment real recently on the video that I did showing how to relief carve some of the metal right here in the grip section of a Remington revolver to make it more comfortable in the grip, because a lot of us recognize these revolvers are not comfortable to grip. So I showed how to relief carve the metal right here to make it more comfortable, and somebody left a comment, "You just ruined a perfectly good gun." No, I didn't. That's you with the cognitive dissonance. Because there are people out there that think you shouldn't touch these at all. Well, here's the problem. This is a 58 Remington, 36 caliber, built on a 44 caliber frame. Right there, you've already lost your talking points, because we all should know that the 58 Remington 36 caliber was built on a much smaller frame. You can literally take a 44 caliber cylinder and it'll fit and work perfect right here if it's a Pieta gun. So you've already lost your talking points about ruining a good gun. Please, people. Now, getting back to the Mesquite. Before I go and show how ductile iron doesn't throw sparks, especially at the speed you're turning it with a grinder. But again, that's you, I'm me. Okay, when I went down to Lulu's to do that shoot with my friend Broken Feather, William, and Jonathan, I had an opportunity to grab some mesquite. Now this mesquite's been laying on the ground for several years, and it's quite obvious that the bugs got to it severely. Okay, so what I did is I took the time to chop all that away, split it all away, and get right down to the heartwood. And a lot of the heartwood was also riddled with wormholes too. In fact, there was even some live worms still living in it. Okay, so I don't know how much I got because mesquite has a very heavy specific gravity, much like Osage orange. And I think I've got enough. Well, I know I have enough to shoot it as a single source, but I'm also hoping that I have enough to do it with a blend, either with the alder that I have or the aspen, because I kind of want to compare it and see what it does. And I know already, because the predictability, when I put in the title mesquite blended with, I'm going to get a lot more thumbs down because there's the cognitive dissonance. There's the loss of your orthodoxy in thought. There's more than one way to skin a raccoon, right, William? There's more than one way to tan a hide, right, people? Those of you that do brain tanning, egg tanning, tannin, chrome tanning, there's more than one way to do it. So anyhow, I'm hoping that I will get enough charcoal to be able to run 2 separate tests with mesquite. So anyhow, let's go out to the shop and let's take a look at what cast iron does on a grinder or a belt sander. So here's a piece of ductile iron. It's just a cast iron. The carbon in this is very, very low. And as you can see, the head is kind of mushroomed over. So what I'm going to do is turn on my belt sander and I'm going to grind part of this away and watch how much sparks really come out of this. And if you do see a little bit, it's because this is getting very, very hot, and that's what's happening. Now, if you did happen to see a couple little tiny sparks, it's because I was really bearing down on this, okay? Because it's the heat. It's superheating these little chunks of metal to cause that. But using a little hand grinder, coffee grinder like I do, I'm not generating the speed required to do that with cast iron, okay? Now I'm going to do something else here, and if you see the head of it, I'm going to try to clean that up really, really well. And then I'm going to take a piece of flint and I'm going to try to draw a spark with a flint. So I'd say that's polished enough to use a piece of flint on it. And I'm going to go through the flint I have and find a very sharp piece, and we'll see what happens. So I'm going to do this in my other shop where it's real dark and I'm out of the sun so that you can see whether this throws a spark or not. You seeing any sparks? I'll do it the way I normally do it, striking down on the flint. Well, are you convinced? If you're not, it doesn't matter to me. You do you, and I will do me. I feel perfectly safe and comfortable grinding up my gunpowder with a cast iron coffee grinder. If you don't feel safe doing that, then you use a ceramic grinder and grind it with ceramic. Okay, so please understand metals and how metals work. Because if cast iron did throw a spark, it'd have been a whole lot easier for our forefathers to make frizens out of cast iron instead of steel, because it takes a whole lot more to take like a cast iron or a wrought iron, infuse it with carbon to get steel. Alright, let's carry on. So we've arrived at the portion of the video to where I want to find out what the specific gravity is of honey mesquite. Just simply because when you go online, you're actually given a wide range of specific gravities, ranging from 0.70 all the way up to 0.82, and the 0.82 would put us in the same specific gravity range as Osage orange. So the only way that I can try to figure out what this is to have a variety of charcoals in my glass jars with known specific gravities. And then after I get this sorted out, I want to address another couple of comments, because I'm not quite sure where these comments are coming from. So I'm going to do my best to show you that perhaps the comments are not truthful in complete nature. So let me get the camera turned around and present what I have in my glass jars. And as far as the mesquite is concerned, I did put all of that into my ball mill and milled it for about 2 hours. So it's just as refined right now as all the other charcoals that I'm comparing it to. So having the mesquite in the middle and trying to figure out what the specific gravity is, well, we know it's not that close to Osage. We know it's not that close to willow. And we know that it's very close to grape and aspen. Grape, again, 0.50, aspen 0.45. And it looks like it's a little bit heavier than the aspen, but not as heavy as the grapevine. So at this point, I would be challenging the online sources for telling everybody that mesquite is 0.70 all the way up to 0.82. And there again, that also depends on what the moisture content is. Now, knowing that this mesquite's been sitting on the ground for a couple of years in southern New Mexico, I would suspect it's extremely dry, which is what I thought it was. So just based on these two right here, I would actually say that it's lighter than the grapevine. It's heavier than the Pacific willow, but it's more close to the aspen at 0.45. But we know that 75 grams of KNO3 is more than enough to burn this efficiently and cleanly, just like it does the aspen. So let's start milling the mesquite and we'll see what it does. So carrying on, another comment that I read that was like, what the heck? The comment was, don't store your gunpowder in a glass jar because glass conducts static electricity. Store it in the original container. Okay. What I have in front of me is a voltometer. And if you're not aware how these work, voltometers, you can check to see if there's a break in continuity. Okay. I'm going to get the camera turned around and I'll show you real quick. So this is how you check to see if what you're handling has continuity or there's an interruption in it. You have a red lead and a black lead. Watch the needle. When you touch these, that's telling you you have continuity. Okay? And you can test a variety of things that have continuity. In other words, that conduct electricity. Okay? So let me go get a glass container and we'll see if it conducts electricity. So there's the glass jar and there's the continuity tester in front of it. Stand back. This might blow up. It's not able to conduct electricity. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to do another test because there is a danger. Let me show you. So there's a can of GoEx. I got a lot of almond shell gunpowder in there. If you're so worried about conducting static electricity, watch what happens when I touch the negative. Watch the needle. Watch out, it's going to blow up. Boom! See the needle? If you're so worried about glass conducting static electricity, where's your worrisome? Where's your fear of grabbing this metal can and not conducting electricity? Where is it? I'm going to do another one. Sometime back, somebody made a comment about me milling my gunpowder in the PVC container that I have instead of the rubber container, and why I'm not afraid of the plastic conducting static electricity. Okay, well, here's a pound of Swiss in a plastic container. Watch what happens. Boom! It's incapable of conducting electricity. So with all that being said, there is a word of caution. And I don't know this for a fact, but I have a strong suspicion that it's true. Lead-based glass. Now we should all recognize this day and age there's been a very concentrated effort to get lead out of everything. So that's why when you have an ordinary jar from the grocery store, maybe a syrup jar or something like that, it's not going to be any lead in it because it becomes too expensive and it becomes environmentally dangerous, okay, and all of that rigmarole. But you can easily check it like I just did with a volt ohm meter, and I have a bullet right here. I'm not going to show you the meter, but just trust me on this one. Lead does conduct electricity. It's not a very good one, but it does. Okay? And as far as lead crystal is concerned, I don't know for a fact whether that actually conducts electricity or static electricity. Let's make sure we know what we're talking about, static electricity, because again, the comment was, oh, don't store it in here in a glass jar because it conducts static electricity. But yet, you'll grab this and pour it from this to your powder horn, back powder horn to here. That blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of misinformation out there, friends, and you really should be aware of that, especially when you're doing what we're doing. We're making explosives. And once again, I can't reiterate this enough. You take every precaution that you deem necessary to do this. I'll do me, and you do you, okay? Now, if anybody happens to have any lead crystal glass out there in a volt ohm meter, I would be very curious to know if you can conduct electricity through it, such as a static electricity. So here we are with the first test burn with mesquite black powder milled for 36 hours And these are those little fine pieces that make their way through my pucking die. Let's see how it burns. I'd say that went up quick enough. So that's what the burn looks like. First glances at it, I'd say it's a little on the dirty side. Rubbing my fingers through the smoke. Comes off real easy. Yeah, a little on the dark side. I've wiped away a lot cleaner looking stuff than this. Clean up the finger, rub it through the center of it. Yeah, still a little on the dirty side, so I guess we'll see the results when I get it shot down through my muzzle loader. So before the breeze picks up a little bit more than what it has been, you might be interested in knowing 80 grains by weight of mesquite actually occupies 82 grains by volume. And I did take some time to figure out what that exactly was. Okay. And for my friend Broken Feather, and a lot of you others have heard me say a static charge. For me, what a static charge is, you pour from your powder horn, you don't settle it. When you get to the top, you close this off and you pour it down your gun barrel. For me, that's a static charge. Some guys refer to this as a thrown charge. Okay, so there's just a little clarification in terminology. So for my friend Broken Feather, I did do it. A thrown charge or a static charge actually weighs 86 grains. So I'm just about right there when it comes to, you know, the compaction and everything else as far as mesquite is concerned. And again, this is my typical 2, 3F, 4F fines, and it's mostly a 3F, and that's what it occupies. 82 grains on the static thrown charge scale. So I'm going to finish getting set up, and we'll get you some numbers. And reflecting back on that burn that I did not do a second burn, as you could probably see by now. My feeling is that this is going to be somewhat of a dirty burning gunpowder. If something catches my curiosity as far as the patches are concerned, then I will take the time to show that. Otherwise, I'm not going to show any patches unless there's a significance observation in them. So I'll get the camera turned around, finish getting set up, and we'll do some shooting. What do we got? 19. Again, sun, too much sun, but it looks like it's 1928. Okay, that shot was 1924. Patch was shredded, but I drilled the bullseye. All right, get another number. And in case you are curious, that second shot was a little difficult to load. Got to figure out what's going on with that. $19.33. $19.36. And as you saw, I had to prick that charge. Little on the dirty side, but these numbers, pretty fantastic as far as I'm concerned. No different than any other patch that I picked up with any homemade black powder. All right, get another shot loaded up, get it downrange, and see what that number is. $18.79. FYI, that was shot number 5 that I just loaded, and it loaded pretty easy. If somebody has an explanation as to why my second shot is always the hardest to load, I would sure enjoy hearing about that. think I got a duplicate because it still says 1879. $19.06. So before I walk up and mark off the target, this patch was pretty easy to find. Was on top of my chronograph, so it's a good thing I have that plastic because it hit the plastic almost dead center. But that's what that sixth patch looks like. It's no worse for the wear, but I will tell you, I feel that it's a little dirty. But I'm going to take one more shot just to compensate for that duplicate so I can have 6 different numbers to crunch and work with. What is that, 1916? Can't tell. Let me go get a closer look. Nope, 1918. That patch didn't go beyond the chronograph, but I gotta say that that's a lot cleaner than the first few patches. So I'm gonna go mark off the target. I'm gonna take one more shot. What I'm gonna do this time is just use a static charge. I'm not gonna settle it, or a thrown charge from my friend William, and we'll just see what the difference is in the feet per second between a thrown charge and a settled charge. $17.33. What a huge difference, and that's why I like to settle all my charges. See, earlier in the video I said a static charge only actually weighed 76 grains. Okay. Mark off the target. Well, actually, I'm going to pull the target and we'll figure all these numbers and conclude with it. So before I actually show the target, I want everybody to see that I put up a new piece of cardboard. Okay. And everything grouped right here. As you can see, there's no wild shots because I want to make a point. Targets oriented this way. Other than shot number 5, which did kind of clip the bullseye, a couple of the shots went right into the same spot. Shot number 8 with that 1733, a thrown charge, hit the bullseye right here. This stuff groups pretty good, but it's a little on the dirty side. As you saw, I had to wipe and clean the bottom side of my flint, and I had to keep wiping down the frizzen because I could see that film building up on the frizzen. But would I hunt with it? Absolutely, because you're not going to take more than a couple shots anyways. Would I take it to a rendezvous? Probably not, because I've got gunpowder that shoots cleaner than this, and in fact, I haven't decided yet. You'll have to stay tuned to the channel to see if I decide on this later. I just may do a 50-50 blend with this Mesquite and the Aspen just to kind of see what the numbers do and if it cleans up a little bit. It might just end up being, I don't know, better than Osage, but the future will tell that. Let me do the numbers with you. Okay, now that I put the targets down, let's go over some numbers real quick. All 8 shots had an average of 1892 with a spread of 203. Now please do not read into that any more than what it actually is. That 8th shot was a static charge. It just thrown, it wasn't settled. And that's the difference you get between settling your charges and just throwing a static charge. That's quite a bit of difference, and you can account for that 203-foot spread just simply because of that. I wanted to make that point to show everybody what the real difference is when you settle, your charges or just throw a charge. You're going to lose a significant amount of feet per second. Okay, the 7-shot average was 1915 with a spread of 57. Throwing out that first shot, going down a clean barrel, average was 1914, and the average spread remained the same, 57. So I've got a decision that I want to make, because I kind of told myself before I did this, if the numbers weren't all that great, I'm not going to blend it with anything. But because it's such a dirty gunpowder, I may just decide to do a 50-50 blend with Aspen and see what we get for numbers with a blended gunpowder, and to see if it'll clean up this little bit better and not be so dirty. In fact, let me show you the lock here real quick. And quite honestly, that's not any different than any other homemade black powder I've shot, with the exception that every shot I had to wipe the face of the frizzen, because I could see that smoky residue just building up on the face. And as you saw, I had to clean the flint. There we go. Had to clean the flint a couple of times to get good spark. So I would say it is a little dirty. I'd have no issues taking it deer hunting, knowing that you would have, be able to take a couple of shots. Would I take it to a rendezvous? Not at this point, because I think it would be too problematic to have to clean the frizzen face in the flint periodically. That last shot didn't load any more difficult than the previous shots, with the exception of shot number 2. And I'm going to try to figure that out if I can. So anyhow, if you friends have gleaned something from this video, and even with all of the comments that I addressed to try to debunk some bad information that's out there, I hope that you would give it a thumbs up yet and share it with your bestest of buds. Everybody have a great week. Bye.